Moon landing didn't happen in millions of years. True to form, it might have appeared within a few hours after a violent explosion long. A planet-sized object known as Theia hit Earth with a force far beyond imagination. This effect was so significant that it sent molten rock and debris launching into space, forming the moon. Could the moon change everything we knew about it? Be completely wrong. Tune in, because NASA's discovery is such a game changer. Sent astronauts into a private space mission that scientists adhered to for years. The notion that Earth will follow Theia's crash-shattered surface mixed with molten rock, eventually turning into a huge disk. This disk cooled, clumped together, and the moon took over millions of years to shape. But this neat, gradual formation has significant issues. If the moon majority of it came from Theia's materials, should be different from Earth's yet. The two bodies appear to be strangely similar. This opens the door to a radical notion that the moon may have formed nearly instantly in the wake of the impact, not over eons. Before we dive deeper, this discovery completely rewrites the moon's history and the real reasons for its rapid formation shocks more than anyone else ever imagined. That this would be just the beginning. Astronomers once believed that the Earth's molten material mixed during the collision with Theia's remains, forming a thick disk of waste from all over the world, countless millions of years. This material alleged to have gathered into a cooling mass that turned into the moon. But something else didn't make sense. If that theory correct, the moon is primarily composed of, instead, Theia's remains are lunar rock samples brought back by Apollo missions. Tell a different story. These rocks have almost the exact same chemical signature as Earth, meaning a huge part of the moon likely came straight from our own planet. This revolutionary discovery led game-changer scientists to rethink the entire process. According to new simulations, when Theia hit the Earth with heat and force were beyond anything we can imagine, the impact wasn't just an explosion, it was a cosmic event that was so extreme that some Earth's crust and mantle were instantly vaporized. This vapor formed a superheated, glowing cloud that stretched far into space, but instead of taking millions of years to settle, some researchers now believe that within mere hours, this material began coming back together into a single enormous body, the moon. This new idea completely changes what we thought we knew. Instead of slowly pulling together over endless, the moon may have formed over millennia, rapidly in the immediate aftermath of the impact. The evidence: the moon's chemical composition is far too similar to Earth's to be mostly made of Theia. Its orbit around the Earth also suggests that it did not require millions of years to, rather than being pulled together almost immediately by gravity's unstoppable force. This means the moon could have been born in a single day, not over millions of years. If true, this, it would rewrite textbooks. Thanks to discovery, challenges every aspect of the way moons form and raises significant concerns regarding other stars outside our solar system could have grown from other moons. This may result in greater, significant effects responsible for planetary evolution than we've ever realized. And if this was how the moon formed, what does that indicate about the chaotic beginnings of the solar system? The truth is, the more we study the moon, the Apollo becomes more bizarre. Missions provided us with the initial glimpse into its true nature, but decades later we're still uncovering shocking explains in detail. The lunar rock and Earth have such a profound connection. Ought to have raised a lot of red flags. Earlier, for years, scientists assumed Theia's remains made up the moon, but the chemical evidence suggests otherwise. If most of the moon's material comes from Earth, then it was likely pulled together in the blink of an eye, not over endless millennia. Now picture the moment after the impact. A burning mass of vaporized debris from the Earth whirls through space, is glowing at a higher temperature than ours. Can imagine in just a few hours this massive cloud cools, thickens, and gravity takes control. Material rushes together, resulting in a violent and fiery birth. Instead of a laborious procedure that took millions of years, the moon emerges in what is practically an instant in geological time. This isn't the story we've been told it's something far more amazing, and there's more the moon's unique properties may be deduced from its rapid formation, its unusual density, its surprising chemical composition, and even way it affects Earth's tides all point to a birth much sooner. If the moon had taken millions of years to form, we might expect more variation in its composition. But it still steadfastly resembles every new test on Earth. Every new simulation keeps leading back to one unbelievable conclusion: the moon may have been created in mere hours, not eons. Other oddities would also be explained by this. About the moon, why does it have such a... Because of its thin crust. Its rocks lack certain volatile components that ought to have much more time to escape. Why does it orbit Earth in such a eerie perfection way? All of these questions suddenly make sense. If the moon formed almost immediately following the impact, as opposed to becoming closer over time, if the theory is true, it could imply that traumatic impacts like Theia's collision Earth had an even greater impact on influencing our solar system more than we thought it might mean. Other moons or planets formed under similar conditions, reshaping how we think about planetary evolution. This wouldn't just change our understanding of the moon, it could force us to reevaluate our entire history. Solar system. New simulations are showing a completely different account of the process the moon formed, and the truth is more shocking than anyone expected. You ever consider how bizarre it is that the Earth and the moon fit so perfectly together? Syncs almost perfectly. As it turns out, scientists have been running simulations using supercomputers to figure out how the moon actually formed after that massive collision with a planet-sized rock. SWIFT is the application they used, meant to imitate all the crazy physics because of its violent impact. And yet it's not just some simple animation. This thing takes into account forces of gravity that are mind-bending, hydrodynamics, and a bunch of other complex science that goes way beyond most of our heads. They ran these simulations on a machine called COSO, a supercomputer that's basically a massive brain built just for crunching numbers on cosmic smash-ups. The scientists weren't just experimenting with a few of scenarios. They ran hundreds of these simulations, tweaking things like the speed, the angles, and how fast Earth was spinning at the time. And here's where it gets wild. According to the old theory, the moon slowly formed over millions of years, but these new high-resolution models suggest it happened almost immediately, like in give that a few hours to sink in. Instead of a lengthy procedure, the moon appeared out of nothing at all. The debris that got flung into space, and that is hardly the most bizarre aspect of these. Additionally, simulations suggest that the moon's material came from Earth, not Theia. That completely flips the old ideas upside down. Originally, scientists thought the moon would be a mix of both Earth and Theia, but the findings point to the creation of the moon, mostly of things that were once part of Earth's outermost layers, which explains Earth and the moon share numerous similarities in the structure of their respective, like the moon is Earth's lost twin, ripped away in an ancient catastrophe. For a long time, people assumed that if something that big hit, whatever emerged from it would require a considerable amount of time to come together. After all, gravity is slow, and there are numerous factors at play. But these new, high-resolution simulations exhibit something completely different from a sluggish, steady buildup. The moon, basically, skipped all the waiting and went intact into orbit, which it did not have to form from a disk of debris over. Instead of millions of years, it survived the force and were thrown out in a single piece that alters the entire method we believe that planets come together. If you examine the images from these simulations, is similar to witnessing a cosmic explosion in slow motion. First you see Theia and Earth collide, causing shock waves through both planets, then chunks of Earth and Theia combining in a cloud of molten rock that is swirling to the sun, Toby, and the remnants begin to shift. Moon gets slingshot out into space. It doesn't fall apart. It doesn't get sucked back there. It keeps holding on together despite all odds. The color-coded maps were used by researchers to trace the source of the debris, and indeed, the new moon is largely formed up of Earth material, not the leftovers. That's a massive revelation. This also clarifies some of the oddest aspects of the moon. Why does it have such a thin crust? Orbit tilted at such an odd angle? Why is its interior is still mostly molten? Some of these oddities begin to make sense. According to this new model, the moon formed immediately as opposed to over millions of years. It wouldn't have gone through the identical settling and cooling procedures. Scientists thought it was just a survivor of a previous catastrophe, bearing the marks of a collision that forever altered both it and Earth. But before we start rewriting textbooks, there's still one problem. This theory, as exciting as it is, needs more proof, and that's where NASA's EMMy's mission comes. And they need to get their hands on lunar samples from further down on the moon surface of the moon. At the moment, dust has been studied a lot, but to really demonstrate this theory, as they must if they discover rock samples that match the material predicted in these simulations, at last we'll have our answer. And now let's really dig in. This is harder to do than say. The moon isn't some simple weekend science project. Is one of the most important objectives of future moon missions. Scientists want to gain access to those more in-depth layers, due to the fact that they hold the history of moon's formation untouched for billions of years. If the evidence matches what these new models predict, then we'll have unquestionable evidence that the moon did not take their time in forming. It simply transpired almost instantly. Think about what that means. Earth was literally changed everything in the space of only a matter of hours. And that enormous rock in the sky is not merely an accident, a direct piece of space debris, lump of Earth thrown into the void by an unimaginable force. The more we learn the moon, the more we learn about it. Earth's own past, our histories are tied together. And whether this new model is appropriate, we've been looking at the beginnings of the moon. Everything wrong the entire time. The old theories are starting to crack. Scientists once believed they had an explanation for the formation of the moon. But when you run the numbers, when you put it all into a supercomputer that doesn't care about the outcomes and previous assumptions, narrate a completely different narrative. The moon's formation has already changed what we thought we knew, but the rest of there are even more surprises in the solar system, awaiting discovery. But this is not the case. Only about the moon. The solar system is packed with bizarre events that leave scientists scratching their heads. Space is not merely a quiet, predictable place. It's full of surprises and chaos. Venus should be used as an example of unrelated events. For example, this planet decided it didn't want to spin the same way as the. Additionally, each and every planet in the solar system rotates counterclockwise, except Venus above their north poles, which stubbornly spins the other way. Why? Nobody really knows for sure, but whatever took place, it must have something extreme. Then there's the whole Planet 9 debate way out past Neptune. Scientists have noticed that some objects move in ways they shouldn't. The leading theory, a massive unexplored planet lurks, pulling things about in the dark. With its gravity, if it exists, it would be considerably larger than Earth and far away. But after years of looking, no one was found, has seen it, so it could be hiding. Or is there something else going on? Strange gaps. The Kuiper belt, a ring of icy objects beyond Neptune, appear to only stop at a certain point. According to scientists, this is the Kuiper cliff, and they do not have solid explanation for the sudden appearance of space. Goes from being stuffed to almost empty. Some suggest a hidden planet cleared out the region, while others think there's something regarding the nature of our solar system formed that remained in this gap. Until someone finds proof, it remains a giant. Even stranger is the question mark in space. The cloud, a fictitious icy shell. Things far beyond Pluto. Scientists believe it exists because of the long period comets that swing into the inner sun occasionally. System. But one thing nobody has ever seen, the Oort cloud. It's too far, too faint, and possibly just a giant guess. Based on the way comets work, behave, if we could confirm its existence, we might get answers about where in the end, where it came from, and where it fits in big picture of our solar systems. History. The sun, which appears to should be well understood, still holds some huge questions. Its outer atmosphere, known as the cora, is a lot hotter than its surface. That shouldn't happen. Usually heat moves outward, which means that the surface ought to be the hottest, but the corona defies logic in some way. Ideas from science include magnetic waves or explosive bursts of energy, but they do not yet have a solid response. And let's not forget the sun's magnetic field that changes hands every 11 years. But no one can fully describe the forces that drive this cycle or the reason for the strength of some cycles. Others, over on Jupiter, the famous great red spot, a storm bigger than Earth has been swirling for centuries, but lately it's been shrinking. Does that mean nobody knows that this storm is dying? Outlasted entire human civilizations, yet scientists have noticed a sudden shift. Are unsure of the reason behind the larger question regarding how gas giants such as Jupiter even withstand storms for that much time. Uranus' strange tilt and Saturn's rings that is supported by other discoveries in space. The solar system is far more erratic than scientists have ever been. Imagine Saturn's rings are another cosmic riddle. They look like they've been there for a long time, but recent research suggests that they may be significantly younger than the planet itself, according to some. Leftover debris from a destroyed moon. Others contend that they emerged when Saturn discovered their true age and location. Remain a question and depending ending. If the theory proves to be correct, it could change everything we thought we was aware of. Saturn's past. Uranus, the oddball of the solar system, has a tilt so extreme that it practically rolls around the sun on its side, which indicates that its seasons are beyond bizarre. Each pole gets about 42 years of continuous sunlight after that of. The most likely explanation is darkness, that a massive impact occurred. Uranus knocked it over a long time ago. But without direct evidence, it's still just a best guess. Neptune's largest moon, Triton, is a bizarre case. In contrast to most Triton's moons are in the opposite orbit, the direction in which Neptune rotates, suggesting it wasn't originally part of. Scientists who study the planet system believe it was taken away from the Kuiper belt. But exactly how and why that took place remained intact throughout the process. Unclear. The asteroid belt sitting between Mars and Jupiter is full of space rocks, but here's the problem. Why didn't they form into a planet? One theory is that Jupiter's gravity kept the fragments from not joining together, but even that explanation lacks depth. The asteroid belt might be of use to us understand how planets form, but for now, it is yet another unsolved solar component. System Mars, once home to rivers and lakes, is now a dusty, deserted wasteland. All of the water scientists were affected. Think the Earth was much thicker atmosphere long ago, but something caused it to escape into space, regardless of massive solar storms or some other. Consider the entire story of how Mars became, and barren remains missing. Important details. Then there's Mercury, the smallest planet, with an astonishment despite its slowness. A strong magnetic field rotation. Earth's magnetic field is driven by its spinning molten core, but Mercury's circumstances don't quite make sense. How does a planet this small produce magnetic field that no one else possesses? A definitive answer, yet other space questions involve things happening right here near Earth. Sometimes when spacecraft orbit our planet in a slingshot, they experience slight but unexpected speed alters, a phenomenon known as flyby anomaly. These tiny deviations in they should not be moving at this rate, or some think it's just an error in calculations, despite the belief of others, could point to unidentified physics at work. Similarly, the Pioneer anomaly has. The Pioneer puzzled scientists for years. 10 and 11 spacecraft were launched in the 1970s, didn't go the way people expected. As they drifted through space, the principal reason is that heat from the spacecraft itself slightly altered its course, but this has not yet been demonstrated. Certainly, even the formation of the planet is still not fully understood. The current, according to theory, planets form from disks of gas and dust moving around young stars, but some details don't quite fit. For instance, the reason gas giants form far from their stars, and why do some of them, planets and other star systems, seem to have strangely extended orbits? Like these questions linger. Scientists could have been unanswered wrong all along. And was the moon truly created solely by us? Or is there something even greater than they are telling us? Tell us what you think, and keep up the good work. by liking and subscribing.